The ban has already happened, not on paper, not with signatures or press conferences, but in practice, in behavior, in silence. As of this moment, the world's most powerful military alliance is functioning without its central pillar. NATO is not preparing to collapse. It has already fractured. And the United States is discovering in real time what it feels like to be on the outside of the room where decisions are made. This is not symbolism. This is not rhetoric. This is operational reality. In this video, we're going to expose how a single rupture triggered a chain reaction, why world leaders moved from outrage to action, and how the alliance that defined the last 77 years is being quietly rewritten. To understand what is happening now, you have to step back and see the broader pattern. For years, Western alliances have been under strain. Trust has eroded slowly, then suddenly. Trade disputes replaced coordination. Intelligence sharing became cautious. Diplomatic language hardened. What once looked like temporary turbulence has revealed itself as structural weakness. Power is no longer shifting through invasions or coups. It's shifting through absence, through countries deciding quietly that they no longer need to align the way they once did. The world is learning how to move on without asking permission. This moment did not arrive out of nowhere. It accelerated because of one event that crossed a line leaders could not ignore. Last week, during a televised interview, President Donald Trump made a claim that rewrote the history of the Afghanistan war. He stated that America's allies stayed back, off the front lines, while U.S. forces did the fighting. It was framed as justification for his renewed threats to withdraw from NATO, but it landed as something else entirely. It was not policy. It was not strategy. It was humiliation. It was a dismissal of sacrifice. For leaders whose nations buried their dead alongside Americans, this was not a debate. It was an insult. The reaction was immediate and unusually raw. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer broke decades of diplomatic restraint and publicly rebuked a sitting U.S. president. He called the remarks appalling and insulting. In Germany, Defense Minister Boris Pistorius went on national television and demanded an apology, stating plainly that rewriting the memory of fallen soldiers was unacceptable. This was not posturing. This was fury. And it was backed by facts. The data explains why this detonated trust. The United Kingdom lost 457 service members in Afghanistan. Canada lost 158. Germany lost 59. Denmark, relative to its population, suffered some of the heaviest losses of the coalition. These troops were not guarding bases in the rear. They were in Helmand. They were in Kandahar. They were dying alongside American Marines. When the President of the United States suggested otherwise, he didn't just offend allies. He undermined the moral foundation of Article 5. The promise that an attack on one is an attack on all. That promise only works if sacrifice is respected. Once that respect is gone, the guarantee becomes hollow. What followed was not loud retaliation. It was calculation. European leaders reached the same conclusion almost simultaneously. This was not a storm to wait out. It was a climate shift. If the United States no longer valued Allied blood, it could not be trusted to defend Allied borders. And so conversations that had dragged on for years were suddenly accelerated. Negotiations that moved at bureaucratic speed were pushed into overdrive. On January 27, 2026, while the White House was escalating tariff threats, Brussels and New Delhi finalized one of the largest trade agreements in modern history. The EU-India deal created a free trade zone of over 2 billion people. It eliminated tariffs on 96% of European goods entering India. This is not incremental. This is transformational. India, historically one of the most protectionist economies on Earth, opened its market almost entirely to Europe. Car tariffs that once sat at 110% were slashed to 10%. Machinery tariffs vanished. Chemical and pharmaceutical barriers fell. In return, India gained tariff-free access for nearly all of its exports to the European Union. This is not just commerce. This is strategy. As American tariffs of 25 to 40% hit allies and partners alike, Europe and India built an alternative economic circulatory system. This is not a sanction. This is a soft ban. A soft ban doesn't expel you. It bypasses you. Trade routes are redrawn. Supply chains are reoriented. Intelligence sharing becomes selective. Decisions are made before you arrive. This is how modern power struggles are fought, not with confrontation, but with exclusion. The deeper meaning is impossible to miss. Europe is no longer talking about strategic autonomy as a theory. It is executing it as policy. Defense cooperation, maritime security, cyber coordination, all once centered on Washington, are being discussed elsewhere. India, once a cornerstone of the US-led Quad, is hedging against unpredictability. When visas are threatened and tariffs imposed, reliability matters more than rhetoric. The message being sent is blunt. Cooperation without chaos still delivers results, and that message is directed squarely at the White House. The consequences are already materializing. Market access is being lost in real time. European companies now enjoy a first-mover advantage in India's 1.45 billion person market. By the time the United States attempts to negotiate its own deal, shelves will already be stocked. This is trade diversion, and it is lethal to complacent powers. American farmers, manufacturers, and exporters are finding themselves on the wrong side of new corridors. Even if policies change later, momentum has already shifted. Damage, once locked in, is difficult to reverse. And this isolation is not confined to trade. The Greenland crisis, once dismissed as absurd, has become emblematic. Renewed U.S. pressure on Denmark, including tariff threats, terrified Nordic allies. Sweden, Finland, and Norway have accelerated their integration into European defense structures, not out of ideology, but out of fear. The protector is beginning to look like a liability. Each incident adds another brick to the wall. History may remember January 2026 as the inflection point, the moment when Europe and India closed ranks and quietly rebalanced the global order. Donald Trump promised to put America first, and in one sense he has. America is now first in isolation, first in tariffs, and increasingly last in the rooms where the future is negotiated. There is no document banning the United States from NATO, no formal expulsion. But when allies build systems that no longer require you, when they stop trusting your word and start planning around your absence, the result is the same. So the question is no longer whether NATO is broken. The question is whether this soft ban marks the end of U.S. hegemony, or the shock that forces a recalibration. Is this the price of demanding more from allies, or the cost of burning bridges that took generations to build? History is watching, and now so are you. What do you think?